Good evening. This is the Daily Drum for Wednesday, September 13th. Here's what's happening. The family of D.C. Special Police Officer Marissa Mannion is planning to sue the city. The 25-year-old was shot and killed last year by retired D.C. Police Lieutenant Jesse Porter during a training session at the Anacostia Library. Porter pleaded guilty and was sentenced last month to 3 years in prison for the shooting. Metal detectors are now installed at Duval High School in Lanham. This after the deadly shooting of 16-year-old Jada Medrano Moore Monday afternoon across the street from the school. Police confirm she tried to protect her brother when she was shot. No arrests have been made. A $25,000 reward is being offered for information. D.C. police have raised the reward from $25,000 to $30,000 for information about Christopher Haynes. The accused murderer has been on the loose for 7 days. He escaped from police custody last Wednesday while at George Washington University Hospital. A 14-day manhunt is over for escaped murderer Danilo Cavalcante. He was captured this morning in Chester County, Pennsylvania, west of Philadelphia. He was serving a life sentence for the murder of his former girlfriend. In Annapolis today, a day-long virtual hearing on juvenile justice reform. The Maryland House Judiciary Committee raising questions about current laws regarding juvenile suspects and offenders. Police and state prosecutors have been critical of the laws, saying they contribute to the rise in youth crime. And civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy for Lawrence Lax Sr. today in suburban Baltimore. Lax was the last living son of Henrietta Lax. She was the black woman whose cancer cells were taken by doctors without her permission in 1951. Those so-called HeLa cells have led to advances in cancer treatments for decades. Here's a look at the weather now. Tonight, only a slight chance of showers, cooler and drier with lows around 60. Tomorrow, looking good, sunny and comfortable, highs in the mid-70s. Well, coming up, our addiction to bad news. Why is that? And who's responsible for it? Lines are open. Give us a call at 202-319-7810. 202-319-7810. Insight is next on WHUR and WHUT-TV.
On the go and on demand, WHUR and WHUT are with you. Download the WHUR app today to get full access to shows, playlists, and our latest contests. To access WHUT on demand, download the PBS app and make Howard University Television your station. Catch up on our WHUT original productions anytime, anyplace on YouTube at WHUT TV. WHUR and WHUT, better together.
DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you might have noticed something a little different on Monday nights at 8 p.m. I'm Angie Ange, our Director of Content here at WHUT. And Monday nights at 8 p.m., we like to call it Must See DMV. All your favorite shows from all your favorite creators focus solely on what makes DC, Maryland, and Virginia so special. So set your clock, and we'll catch you at 8 p.m. right here on WHUT, Howard University Television, telling your stories on your station.
Going beyond the headlines to the deeper issues. 96.3 WHUR and HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Inside segment, where your questions and comments matter. At 202-319-7810. Join the conversation.
Whether you watch it, read it, or listen to it, we all seem to love a salacious story. The juicier, the better. But why is there such an insatiable appetite for scandalous news? From celebrities to everyday people, shocking revelations seem to pique our interest. Good evening and welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and WHUT-TV. I'm Harold Fisher. Tonight, we explore the allure of so-called tabloid culture and its impact. Why are we so obsessed with the scandalous, the salacious, the dark, negative stories? For example, it's been the biggest black celebrity news for weeks. We were all glued to the radio on Monday morning to hear from our very own Steve Harvey and Shirley Strawberry. They addressed unsettling rumors about Harvey's marriage and the leak of a jailhouse phone call between Strawberry and her estranged, incarcerated husband.
I couldn't. It was too much. It was just too much for me at that time, you know?
Okay. You know, my wife and me, we've been getting beat up for the past 2 weeks. When something like this happens, you know, our motto has always been to never address bloggers.
Right.
And we don't give it no room or steam.
No life.
No, nothing, because we know who we are and we know whose we are. And so we don't address bloggers. When this came out, it's a little bit different because it's not gossip, rumor, or malicious lie. It came from the inside circle.
And this isn't the only story people are eating up. This week, it was revealed that Susanna Gibson, a Democratic candidate for the Virginia House of Delegates, performed live sex acts with her husband on a porn website and encouraged tips from viewers. This is the #1 read story for the Washington Post this week. We have a lot to unpack tonight. My guests are Dr. Terri Adams, Associate Dean of the Howard University Graduate School and Director of the Howard University Initiative on Public Opinion, blogger April Banks, and multimedia journalist Nicki Mayo, and of course you. Lines are open. Give us a call, 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. You can X me at HFisherWHUR, or you can find me on Instagram at Harold T. Fisher. So, thank you all for joining the conversation. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Let me start with you, Dr. Adams. What's going on with us, Dr. Adams? You know, why are people so drawn to these scandalous stories and other people's misfortunes?
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. I think it's a combination of things, but just to start the conversation, I think we're drawn to drama. I think it satisfies like an innate need or tendency towards negativity, or there's a negative bias that we have as human beings towards finding out those things that might cause danger or harm. And I think we want to be in the know all the time, and learning or hearing about how someone else's life is falling apart makes your life seem much better. And then I'll stop there.
You know, so you're a blogger, April. You know, you've got the juice is loose when you're on the keyboard, so to speak. Why do people love the juicy stuff? I mean, you know, in public discourse, in the town hall, in the public square, everyone wants to talk about Zen and being positive and everything else. But that is not what the likes say. That is not what the readership says, whether it's bloggers or the Washington Post or anybody in between.
Yeah, I think it's all about becoming viral. Honestly, at the end of the day, just trying to get that one up upon the next person. So wanting to have that story hit so hard and wanting to be salacious, as you say, is very important. I mean, if I want to become viral, I have to be talking about what the people are talking about. I can't just talk about anything. Mm-hmm. And in order to people to understand, you know, also what is going on in the world, I like to flip it. You know, flip it so people can understand what it is. It doesn't always have to paint the ugly picture. It depends on how you look at it.
Well, how would you flip it? Because the start of that story, that that headline, there's no flip there. It's the flop. It is the whole bit of interesting information that just kind of grabs you by the wrists and pulls you in.
Well, I'm just interested. I'm nosy. You know, not nosy, but inquisitive, I would say. And knowing somebody else's issues, like the doctor said, your issues sometimes is worse, not worse as theirs. So looking at somebody else's issues makes yours a little bit more greater than looking at your own. But it's just easier that way to just look at it and say, oh my gosh, she put that up on TV, or she had a porn, thing with her husband. So it's like at the end of the day, why not? Is she up for campaign too, though?
Yeah.
You know, so you can look at that. A lot of the things people do are for a reason. They don't just sometimes do it. There's a reason why they do it.
Nikki, you and I have been covering news for a really long time.
Yes.
And you remember that old saying, if it bleeds, it leads?
Written right here.
Yeah, you got
Literally.
you got
Number one, bleeds, it leads.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Number two, mugshots really do get the clicks. Okay, like these are the things that people really are invested in. We do say we want to zen out, but that's a bunch of is bunk. When you look at the numbers on any website for a news organization, for a blog, Shade Room. I was looking at the Shade Room earlier to get a feel for this conversation. Real talk, people like destruction, the death, injury, and destruction. They like the chaos, the Jerry Springer effect, the carnival freak shows. That's what attracts them more. I wish I could put together a newscast that people actually stayed invested in that was all, this is what happened. This is how it impacts you. But you want to know what they're sticking around for? Those crazy kickers. The one that says that somebody who's an elected official decided to do an OnlyFans. They're sticking around for that. So no, if it's crazy, if it's off the wall, that will be the most popular thing pushed to the top of, yes, a Washington Post, a New York Times, all these things. None of us are above it because we're trying to make finances here, okay? So it sucks, but it's real. I wish I could change the appetite of the American public, but it's not happening anytime soon. And we don't censor a lot.
Is it, Dr. Adams, is this our appetite for drama? I mean, obviously, we're talking about things that are actually happening, but people want to be entertained. And even in their information, I mean, you know, as we say, probably one of the most important issues for years and years, decades and decades for Black people is voting. But the reality is, for a lot of people, voting is not sexy.
Right. Unfortunately, it's not, but we need to find a way to make it sexy because everything is at stake at this point. But I would say, kind of go back to what I was trying to hint at earlier, which is this thing about negativity bias. And it's that we, tend to gravitate towards the negative news because subconsciously we crave it. And some psychologists will argue that we crave it because of our need to survive. So, one time as a species, we needed to make sure we were well aware of all the things that were potential threats in our environment. And so we had to be on high alert. And we tend to process negative information more whole and completely, and it stays with us longer than positive emotions. So even though it's one of the other speakers mentioned that people want to say they want positive news, they want to experience more positive things, we tend to have this negativity bias that keeps us gravitated towards the negativity, and that is just purely out of our survival as we go back in history. Now, of course, we're still human, so we're still operating with these things that drive us. But then you add a layer on top of that, and people just loving drama and wanting to watch it unfold. I think it's the perfect combination that we're experiencing now.
Nicki, you were going to say something. Yeah.
Voting can be sexy. Remember that Atlanta strip club that had the "Get Your Booty to the Polls" that whole video?
Wow, I missed that one.
How did you miss that?
How did I miss that?
They even made a parody of that on P-Valley. So there's always some awkward story out there. But I'm here for the fact check, so yeah.
There you go. Yeah, Thank you for that. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. We are talking about our insatiable appetite for the salacious, the negative, the dark news of the day. Is it our fault? Why are we like that? If you have a comment or a question, give us a call at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Antonio, calling from Virginia. Thanks for calling, Antonio. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for the call. Yeah, I just wanted to comment and say, the negative energy is something that we've been pretty much programmed into thinking about with social media and the internet. And so it's very important for people to recognize that, those are the things that sell. These are the things that can be easily demonetized as controversy. And so it's just very important for people to recognize what agendas are going on and just see why is it that you're interested in drama as opposed to something that is towards your personal development, you or your family. And so that's where I think we are at the state of the world is connected towards negativity because that's what sells.
Thank you so much for that, Antonio. April, you are nodding your head.
So a lot of the times people do get paid for blogging, and being that first come first serve. You see it a lot of times with the Hollywood reporters. You also see it with the Shade Room, as Nicki suggested. You also see it. Everything is online, so it's kind of hard not to just tap that box and just read it and just be inquisitive to what's going on. Myself, I'm not a paid blogger. I do it just
not yet. Not yet, but it could happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But I enjoy doing it. I enjoy kind of, again, spinning the story so people can kind of read into it. And a lot of bloggers do that, especially when it comes down to the headlines. When you go into the story, you're like, oh, that was a dud. It was a waste of my time, but it's all about the title, the headlines that grabs you, reality TV. I'm hungry for it. Monday, Tuesday, it's different shows I watch on Sunday and just talk about it. But I talk about a lot of things that people want to say too as well.
So let's talk about that. You talk about a lot of the things that people want to talk about. What do they want to talk about?
Look at your Facebook feed.
Yeah.
No, not mine.
No, but we
It's
can
just
learn
Bible verses and waterfalls on my
Bible study.
But
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But no, look at the engagement on somebody's Facebook feed because that really shows where we kind of migrate to. And it normally is chaos. You have some people who every day they wake up, and I've done it myself, they chose violence, okay? So they wake up and say, okay, I'm going to really shake up the table today. That's the objective of the day. And it'll be something so out of left field that everyone has to chime in. It'll have 100 different comments on there. Meanwhile, if you just post it up, look at this school had a bake sale and they helped some kid with cerebral palsy. How much engagement is there? So we really do show people what our engagement is. I'm not talking off the top of my head with this, by the way, because I've been a social media manager. I've been the digital editor. I've sat there and looked at what sparked engagement. And sports will do it, yes. So yay. But even sports can turn violent. We know that.
Oh, we saw that this weekend.
There was a viral video, of a fight at the Commanders.
The Washington Commanders game.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what people draw to. They draw to the chaos, and they're looking over there, at least it's not me. Seems to be the idea.
Okay, so you just said something, and I want Dr. Adams to talk about this because I think this is a prime example. Okay, whether it's on television, whether we're reporting it here, for example, or if it's on social media. There is a bake sale for a woman who has cancer. She needs to raise money for her medical bills. Great story, tear jerker, important story, tears at the heartstrings. But not everybody's going to see that story. But the story that everybody will see, Dr. Adams, and again, I'm not just making this up, we've seen this time and time again, is what happens when that woman, when you discover she never had cancer and that she's raising money and she's spending that money on, nightclubs, fast cars, and bills.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, that story rises to the top of the feeds. It's in the news. I'll ask Nicki in a minute, but from your perspective, why is that story more important than the original story of trying to raise money to pay bills, to pay for medical bills?
I think because people love sensationalism and things that are just entertaining, shocking, surprising, things that make them feel better about their own lives. I might not have my act together, but at least I'm not out here doing X, Y, and Z. I think that's part of why people feed in and love these stories because it does make them feel better about their own lives, and it's sensational. I mean, how can you not click to learn or know more about one of these stories that you said at the top? Congressperson.
Or a candidate for the Virginia House. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's how can you not want to know more about that story? I think it's human instinct. almost.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not sure if I do want to know more about that story. Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
Doesn't meld in with your whole Bible study thing you're doing.
It really,
okay.
it does not.
Yeah.
But to to that point, Nicki, I'm so glad we brought you onto this program. Why is that example that I used? Why is that so much more news than the original example of somebody?
Okay, the original example,
Yeah.
people will look for opportunities, like you'll see it in the comments, so this is not my opinion at all, but they'll look for opportunities to blame the victim. Okay, you know what? You deserve this somehow. Even with cancer, they'll find a way, well, you shouldn't have ate, insert some weird thing, blah, blah, blah. That's why you deserve it. So I think there's less empathy there. There's more people who are stricken with ailments, more people who are without houses. We all know someone who is without, right? So you're like, well, I could give to my friend that I care about. I'm not going to give to you. But when they come out to be a scammer in that situation, because remember you said the opposite was, what if we find out that this person happens to be a scammer and that this was all made up? Then we want to do a public crucifixion. We just want to like throw stones and like say shame, 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 shame. That's where we're like pile-on is major. Doxing becomes an issue. Swarming and swatting, all the bad things that can happen online. I don't know why there's a release that people seem to have some type of desire to inflict injury and pain. But we are big with mob and swarm mentalities.
Yeah, and by the way, you all your organization's having a conversation similar to. Real quick, talk to us about that.
No problem at all. Yes, we're going to have an event tomorrow. It's a virtual discussion called Black Women Unmuted, covering Black women in politics and policymaking spaces. Taking the sisters off mute, one story at a time. And we're going to go back in time and talk about the 4 little girls that we lost in Birmingham, and what was their legacy, but also the other young women and girls that were lost or pretty much paid in blood in the civil rights movement. That's tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern, obviously. And if you want more information, want to register for it, it's on blackwomen.com, blackwomenunmuted.com. Register there, jump on, join the conversation. We're going to have Sonia Ross, who is my editor-in-chief of Black Women Unmuted, Aaron Haynes from the 19th, and a student from Spelman College who's also a John Lewis scholar.
There you go. Thank you so much. Real quick, and we've got phone calls. Vernie from D.C., we're going to talk to you. Velda from Waldorf. But I've got to mention this also because here was another story. And this has got to be this wasn't a celebrity story, April.
Okay.
The Carly Russell story out of Alabama.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Why? For why?
Why? Yeah.
For
why was that? I was riveted.
Oh, I was too.
Okay, so help me with this. I give you a minute because before the break. Why were you so riveted?
I don't know why. Like sometimes we look at stuff and we just don't know why we're into it. I just wanted to see what was going on. And so I got a background in law enforcement. So my tune is a little bit more different than a regular person. And when I'm looking, I'm like, well, dang, I'm looking for clues.
Thank you.
When I'm doing it, I'm not looking for like just the normal thing that other people are looking at. I'm looking at it like, okay, she left her car. All right, her wig is off. Like, we know sisters keep our wigs on. So,
And there's a baby by the side of the road.
There's a baby by the side of the road.
Track star baby, because, that baby needs some ground.
I mean, so like at the end of the day, it's all about, it's sad at the outcome of it because we all, a lot of the people pitch money in to try to help her mom and everyone, comb the areas of which she, was lost at. But yeah, that was just a douchey story. I'm sorry.
It really was. And I think a lot of people were kind of dancing on a grave once they found out that this was not the case. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Also, as I said, Vernie from D.C., we're going to talk to you. Do not hang up. Velda from Waldorf, we're going to talk to you as well. We are going to take a break, but don't forget you can hear every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast. That is on WHUR.com. And don't forget to download the 96.3 HD2 app on your smartphone and hear the program live in its entirety. As I said, if you're on the phone, 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Stay with us. The Daily Drum will continue on Sirius XM, channel 141, 96.3 HD2, and on WHUT TV. I'm Harold Fisher. Iron Waller is in for John Mons with the original Quiet Storm. That's on WHUR. We'll be back in just a bit.
On the go and on demand, WHUR and WHUT are with you. Download the WHUR app today to get full access to shows, playlists, and our latest contests. To access WHUT on demand, download the PBS app and make Howard University Television your station. Catch up on our WHUT original productions anytime, anyplace on YouTube at WHUT TV. WHUR and WHUT, better together.
DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you might have noticed something a little different on Monday nights at 8 p.m. I'm Angie Ange, our Director of Content here at WHUT. And Monday nights at 8 p.m., we like to call it Must See DMV. All your favorite shows from all your favorite creators, focused solely on what makes DC, Maryland, and Virginia so special. So set your clock, and we'll catch you at 8 p.m. right here on WHUT, Howard University Television, telling your stories on your station.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM and WHUT TV. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our discussion about our seemingly voracious appetite for scandalous, salacious, even negative news. My guests are Dr. Terri Adams, Associate Dean of the Howard University Graduate School and Director of the Howard University Initiative on Public Opinion, blogger April Banks, and multimedia journalist Nicki Mayo. And of course, you. Lines are open at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Let me go to the phone lines. Let us talk to Velda. Velda calling from Waldorf. Thanks for hanging on, Velda. What's on your mind?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that it's so sad what Steve Harvey and Marjorie are going through, but people gravitated to the fact that, he wrote this book telling us that we were stupid and we need to think like a man, and then the rumor was that his wife did this, and people were loving it, and it was horrible. I would never want to experience that, and that was sad.
Yeah. You do make a point. Thank you so much, Velda. Let me go to Vernie. Vernie calling from D.C. Vernie, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes, this is Vernie.
Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm coming from a spiritual perspective, as always, and we need to understand that the humans were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. So we have a propensity for sin, for darkness. That's why, and also we are warned in the gospel about gossipers. People that spread stuff, stories, and a lot of times it's fantastic stories that feed the negative spirit of man. That's in all of us until we're set free. That's one of the main things. But another important thing is that all of that, it spills over into everything. The way that we think spills over into everything. So everything, because we thinking this negative stuff, we're craving it,
yeah.
And it's spilling over to all human beings.
So thank you for that. Thank you so much for your comment, because you make a really important point when you talk about, for example, the spiritual aspect. Dr. Adams, a lot of the people, not all, obviously, but a lot of the people who are addicted to some of these reality shows, the salacious news, the juicy of the Dr. Adams, we see them in a church house on Sunday. So it is all of us that are tempted, if I'm going to keep with the biblical journey that Vernon was just sharing with us, we are tempted to click, to read, to watch, to listen. But talk to me a little bit about, I think, the psychological factor, that the impact that these salacious stories have on us.
Right. Well, I think you're right. Across the board, doesn't matter your race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status. Many people are addicted to, or addiction may be a strong word, or attracted to negative news. Basically, the soap operas at, effect of quote unquote reality TV. And I think kind of going back to what I was originally talking about related to, being drawn to negativity and that being almost based in our biology. In order to survive, we needed to pay attention more to the negative things that were going on in our environment. But then there's also this concept called confirmation bias that keeps us locked into negative news. And confirmation bias is our tendency to seek out information that confirms our pre-existing conditions. So those things in which you already think you're more drawn to. And so rather than challenging our beliefs about the world, we tend to gravitate towards those things that we affirm our fears, our thoughts, our values, and those kinds of things. So in order to override your tendency to be drawn towards negativity, you have to spend more time really cultivating your mind towards those things that are positive. So there's a way out of this loop, but it takes it takes you being active in order to do that.
So I agree with her, and that's why they have that algorithm. Algorithm.
Yeah.
Thank you. That right there it keeps giving you the negative. If you're clicking on the negative, if you are into spiritual, it's going to give you spiritual all day. If you're into the news, it's going to give you news all day. It's all about what you're clicking. So if you're not clicking anything other but the same thing every day, it's going to pop up on your feed the same thing every day, unless you go somewhere else and read about it. Like, for example, on IG is like that. You can click it and like it and share it. And then next you know, it's like, okay, did you see a story similar to this? And it's like, well, I'm not interested in the story. I wanted to share it. Yeah, you can't. You can't. It's just there, right there. As soon as you wake up, as me as a blogger, I'm on it. It used to be really bad for me. I wouldn't go to bed until like 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm like, I got to be first. And now I'm just like, you have to find that boundary where you have to be like, I'm over it. I'm done. I'll see it tomorrow.
But Nicki, do you believe that there is a difference between the darkness that we often report in the news and the guilty pleasures that people voluntarily exercise when they're watching reality TV or scrolling through social media looking for the salacious gossip?
There's not a major difference because we're all sharing information. It comes down to how much time is allotted for said stories. We in newsrooms typically exercise a level of ethics as well as this is what our brand is. And it's not going down the rabbit hole. The Shirley Strawberry.
Yeah.
The amount of content I found on that, obviously not on any news site that I would normally.
Everywhere.
It was everywhere,
Yes.
all over TikTok and Instagram. And I'm like, these content creators and these bloggers are having a field day. Meanwhile, I really have kind of killed my algorithm to the point where I didn't know a lot about it. But in the newsroom, we decide, like, hey, have you heard this story about this Steve Harvey connection? You'd have to go so far down the rabbit hole to figure out who Shirley Strawberry is.
If you don't listen to the show. Yes.
So it's not newsworthy enough. So yes, we do a lot of very dark, very real talk. I do every Monday. I pop up on TV One. I'm telling somebody's sad story around the Baltimore, DC metropolitan area on Fatal Attraction or whatever show I'm on at that point, right? Those are just longer versions of the minute 15 package that I normally would turn saying somebody got shot. This person is a person of interest. The investigation continues. So it's a short version. But now when you have that long version with the actors and the dramatization, now it's like, oh, did you hear that story about? And it becomes just as salacious and gossipy. And this is a real life story.
Right.
Yeah. So we become invested when we have all that time on our hands. Most newsrooms and television, radio, digital print, they don't have that much space and time to go down a rabbit hole on. I didn't even really know who she was. I'm not going to lie to you. I know Steve Harvey because of the books and stuff in comedy, but if you aren't watching the show or listening to the show regularly, if your algorithm didn't bring you back to the latest in this weird saga, no, you would totally have been oblivious to this the whole time.
So here's the other question, and I'll go back to you, Dr. Adams, about whatever this happens to be, what this does to us. Here's an example. At the height of the pandemic, when you were looking through social media, and this was before there were, vaccines, and people were trying to figure out what was going on, and you had the body count of what was happening in New York and everything else, and as terrible. This wasn't salacious. This was just bad. This was bad news. Period. BAD. And people were looking through it and scrolling through it and scrolling through it. We were addicted because it was not the news, Dr. Adams, just of the day. It was the news of the afternoon. It was the news of the early evening. It was there at midnight. It was everywhere. What did that kind of bad news do to the collective American psyche?
I think it traumatized us. So I think what you're talking about is something that as a nation we just kind of skimmed over. It's like those 2 years existed, but not really because we don't talk about them. I could go deep down that rabbit hole, and I know that's not the intent here. But just listening to the news stories after story after story after story, I think, one, people wanted to feel connected to a larger community that was experiencing this same horrible set of conditions that were kind of thrown on us, or we were engulfed in. So I think watching it, you wanted to feel connected. You wanted to know as much as possible to stay alert and to stay as safe as possible. So that was one thing. But the impact of that, whether we're talking about COVID or just in general, watching negative news has a tendency to make you feel depressed, has a tendency to make you feel hopeless about life. And so there are some folks that say that you should take breaks from the news. I listened to Dr. Wheel or Wild or somebody maybe about 15 years ago, and he talked about taking breaks from news, and I started doing that. And I noticed within myself that I started feeling better. I was less depressed. I was less fearful. So I think I would advise anybody to take a break, have somebody to call you if something really is crazy going down. And then check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Are you feeling any different? Because we do tend to be in fear mode a lot, and we're not even paying attention to it. We're so used to
it. The point that she just made, April, about being, traumatized, obviously, as a blogger, and you are, the things that you blog about, you're not blogging about, at least I'm assuming not. I don't think I have to worry about you blogging about President Biden or the Speaker of the House.
No.
She's running for re-election.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, the former speaker, yes, Nancy Pelosi, yes, she is running. Or you may get a Trump in there, depending on what it is. Maybe down in the corner.
He'll keep you busy.
Right. Oh yeah, he does. Yeah.
But when you talk about being, traumatized, do you ever feel that what you are writing or what your readers are absorbing, consuming from you? Have you ever had to take a break from what you were writing because you just said, okay, this is too much for me. This is just too much down and dirty for me even?
Yes. Like I find myself, because you consume information so much, and especially with the COVID-19 that was going on, it was just nonstop. Like you were saying, it was just feeding. And I think that too made us go on to more social media and look at these stories differently. Same with the Steve Harvey. We're so in tune to it now, but I take breaks. I can't I cannot just sit here every day, day out for like a month. I think I just took a break recently just from IG, not so much Twitter, but IG, because everyone is sharing the same story. Someone's feeding it differently. So once I start seeing that it becomes repetitive, I take a break, I stop, and then I assess it and just come back, tiptoe, put my foot in it, put my toe in it, and see if it's time for me to come back or just stay on one particular platform, which would be Twitter. But I do take them.
202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. This is the Daily Drum on WHUR on Sirius XM and WHUT TV. We are talking about our voracious appetite for scandal, salacious, dark, negative news. Why are we like that? What's going on with us that we have to have that dark news fix? And what do we do about it? Do we do anything about it? Lines are open. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. So, Nicki.
Yeah.
Whose fault is this? Is it the media's fault? And again, and you, how many times have you and I had this discussion over the years?
Chicken or egg kind of question here.
Yeah, what are you doing? Because here's the deal, and you've had this discussion, particularly when we have gone to, community organizations, or NAACP, Urban League, whatever it happens to be, and we get that question: why y'all always? Why y'all always? Talking about negative stuff in our community. Why can't you
I would like to make the distinction between the media, because there's a lot of different media out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything with a journalistic ethical stance, meaning a news organization, they should be held to a higher regard than any other media, because we are watchdogs. We are supposed to be holding government officials accountable. We're supposed to be reporting what's happening. And yes, there is an arts and entertainment and sports wing of what we do. Even with them, they're still exercising journalism. So I just want to make sure that we're separating the journalists away from the folks who are like, okay, I want to get these clicks. I'm trying to talk about whatever's hot and popping today. I'm not going to act like I don't sit on YouTube and watch a whole bunch of stuff. I do. It's fun. But I also consider my source. They're doing it for entertainment, for clicks. They're monetizing. They have to get you to pay attention. And I think there was one good quote about this whole Marjorie and Shirley Strawberry and Steve Harvey thing, where I think Steve Harvey said it in I heard a recording of it so recently. Everyone's capitalizing on getting their little hot take to the point where no one's going to be able to monetize that to make some real money. If you're getting 2,000 hits, that's not enough. You need to be up in the millions to really make some money here. So, the motive is different. We all have this motive of we're trying to get information out. But no, I can't blame all media for our insatiable appetite for all things bad. I really feel like we already had this. Think about gladiator sport, for the love of God. That's from back prehistoric times, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not post, whatever. You get
our prehistory.
It's gladiator, back in the day, Caesar, no, whatnot. They got together to watch people rip each other apart. Mm-hmm. So this is not new. We're not just jumping the shark right now. We've always had a problem as humans. We're very into just destruction.
Yeah. And not just destruction, but watching it happen. We can talk. You don't even
train wreck.
You don't have to go back that far. You can talk about the Vietnam War, the first, what was called during the 60s and 70s, the first living room war, where people were galvanized by that.
If people didn't tune in for it, didn't click on it, it probably would not have the prominence that it has. Mm-hmm. But since people are constantly clicking on it, you can call it clickbait, but is it really if the fact that people are just clicking on stuff because they know I'm going to see somebody naked, I'm going to see somebody hurt, I'm going to see the latest gossip and slander, I'm going to see the Kardashians. I mean, it's just tabloid. I've never dabbled in tabloid. I try not to, get too stinky about being uppity toward it, but Real talk. You know what the tabloids were when you would see them in the grocery store?
Yes.
Okay, when they had like aliens are living in, that craziness, like Area 56, whatever it is. But I'm just saying, like, I remember growing up and be like, what is that? My mom was like, oh, that's just for entertainment. Okay, so I knew from a young age, tabloid entertainment. Now, the sad part is that some of our more popular ones, like the TMZs of the world, they have gotten so much prominence because, yes, they're breaking stories. The way that they're breaking stories is with the ethical jumping the shark moment where you're like, okay, I can't endorse this. I don't want to endorse it. I'm not going to click on it. I don't want to share it. It might be right, but the way in which they go about getting this information is not something I want to align myself with. That's me as a journalist. Joe Blow Public doesn't care how they get this information. He's like, okay, well, look, it said over here, Kobe's helicopter went down, and here's the photos. That's what TMZ will do.
Yeah. And I remember that going on, but at the end of the day, like, why would you want to post something like that?
Their ethics are gone, just gone. The Migos, I think there was a shooting, and they had the video of somebody getting shot. Yeah. See, I can't work for any news organization whose ethical standards are like, if it literally bleeds, it's leading. Like, they want to show you carnage. I have quit jobs where hosts and people in charge were like, we're going to run it. I'm like, can we at least mosaic out, blur out the carnage? And they're like, no, America needs to see this. I'm like, okay, I can't be a part of this right now. I'm not doing this. I believe in a kitchen table test. I'm not trying to gross you out. I'm trying to inform you. So that's from the journalistic standpoint. But no, people like crazy stuff. They click on the OnlyFans. They click on the Pornhubs. They click on, click here to see somebody get shot. They click on these things. I cover like Al-Qaeda. I cover like people getting their heads with serrated knives cut off. Mm-hmm. I'm good. I remember. I don't need to cover this stuff anymore. And I really wish I could convince people that you don't need to see this. You were in the Army. Yeah. There's probably some stuff you saw we don't need to see.
Yeah, no, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Dr. Adams, who is to blame? Is it us? Is it the media? What?
I think it goes back to what someone said, is it the chicken or the egg kind of thing? So the media gives us what they think the public wants. And you said it earlier, I believe, or you said something that made me think about this. If the news just produced positive stories for an extended period of time where people still click, where people still listen, where people still tune in. And I want to think yes, but my guess is that the ratings will go down.
Yep.
So I think it is a matter of informing the public about what this does to them. And the fact that the last speaker said that she stood up and said, no, I don't want to be a part of this. Like, I commend that, because we need more people to say that and to take that stand to protect the public, because sometimes we don't know what's best for us.
Yeah. And, one of the things, and I've mentioned this example, a lot of times when people have asked me over the many decades that I've been doing this, where they said, why, as I said, why y'all always? That's one word. Why y'all always?
Why do you make it into one word?
Yeah, it's just one word.
Y'all know what y'all do.
Exactly.
Y'all looking for the bad stories. Y'all trying to make us look bad.
But this is what I tell them. Yeah. This is what I tell them, and I've given this example years and years and years. If you drive home every day, and say you've got a spouse or a partner at home or what have you, and it was smooth sailing in your commute.
I'm bored.
You're bored.
What do you need?
Right. You walk in the house and you don't say, honey, I had a great drive home from work.
No, you want the gossip.
No, I'm going to tell you what I heard on the radio.
Right.
About the hot gossip.
Exactly.
Hot gossip.
But if you're driving and in the middle of your commute, there is a horrible accident, that the car was upside down. Obviously, somebody was severely hurt or killed or what have you. That story, what you've observed, may not even wait until you get home. You are going to pick up the phone and you are going to say, honey, guess where I am? I'm in the middle of this traffic accident and it is horrible. The car is upside down. The wheels are still spinning. Fire trucks are out here. The smoke is billowing. The car's on fire. I think there's a body on the street. That's who we are.
I'll take out my phone and just record. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's part of being a blogger. I mean, I wouldn't do that honestly, but as bloggers, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that one viral moment. It's all about that. Just one. It's about being first. You know that old saying: if you're last, you're first, or first, you're last." That part.
But even with that, I can steal your content. Like,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
thing. You know,
that's
like
the
real
problem.
talk.
That's the
I used to have to
problem.
work to verify whenever I would see a viral anything online and say, hey, hi, I'm hitting you up from this news organization.
Mhm.
Did you take this video?
Mhm.
So the same way you might have gotten it first and put it up there first, you might even try to watermark it if you want. People will crop, throw stickers on top of it,
Trust me.
all the things, and sell your content. So
I've
it's
had it
like, so
happen.
what was it for?
I've had it happen, and it's very intrusive at the end of the day because it's just like being a journalist. Someone's taking your work. Your
But we
passion.
got lawyers, though.
I mean,
so,
I mean, I don't have that problem.
Right.
But, you know,
Right.
I mean, a lot of people should have lawyers if they're bloggers in the way that they blog nowadays, you know, hence the Steve Harvey show.
I'm just in awe of like the risk that so many bloggers are taking. I'm like, you do realize, like, to get the latest, sadly, the latest Black Lives Matter shooting. Like to sit there with they're shooting people. You're going to sit there with a cell phone. That's all that's arming you. Someone could shoot you too. Like a lot of the things that we end up doing and putting our lives in harm's way. My mom's still mad at me for a lot of the stuff that I've covered and just did not need to be too close. Now think about it. Joe, I'm doing it on my cell phone. Okay, that's great. In the event they start just popping shots at everybody, what you gonna do?
But okay, but to that point, and also the point that April made about trying to have a viral moment, but we are seeing more of that. What's the website where they have all the World Star?
Oh, that's
It's
everything.
gone. Isn't it? It's still here. It's still here. World Star.
Yeah,
all the
right.
fights.
Yeah, you have. I mean,
World Star.
No, I mean you have the fights.
Yeah.
You know, and even if it's not World Star, where we saw recently young people subway surfing.
Oh yeah.
And all of the risks that they're taking for a viral moment. Okay, you just said if you saw that accident that I created on the commute home, but you pulled out your phone. So after that, what do you do with it?
Well, I'll say right there, you know, I'm very conscious about what I post. I don't really post a lot of stuff that, you know, I don't really post a lot of stuff that feel like it will harm someone else because I have my own family, and I think of other people's families as well. So sometimes all news being posted about a viral moment is not that serious. I would rather sit and make sure that the person is okay. You know, I can't stop right away and see what they're doing, but you know, after being in law enforcement, it'll kick in. Like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. But again, I wouldn't stop and just record it. But that's how a lot of people are now. You can slow down, drive past, record, take a video, upload. It takes 2 seconds to upload something on Twitter. On Instagram, it'll take a little bit longer unless you put in your stories because you got to give this long caption about why, when, where, how, right? But on Twitter, you can just hashtag something, post, viral, TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but you know, on TikTok, everything is right at our fingertips.
Yeah.
That is the problem. The internet is the problem.
I just want people to be safe. I get very worried about, I want to be first. I'm like, are you paying attention to your environment while you're doing this?
Yeah.
And real talk, you don't need to put yourself in that uncomfortable and unsafe area.
Yeah.
I will say thank you to whoever did the viral moment down in, you know, the river brawl.
Oh yeah.
Now that we got every angle. I mean, I was like, this was like a 5 camera.
Which brings me to the next point, because Dr. Adams, how can you create an emotional balance as a consumer of all of this information? Let's take the Montgomery brawl for example. First day it was terrible, and then leave it to black folks to be super creative, Dr. Adams.
Music beds on that bad boy,
you know,
Aquaman.
but how
Going to the store and get
how do you find balance if short of cutting everything off? How do you find balance when you are consuming this information?
I think you need to decide what kind of content you want to consume and then make your selections from there. So if you're okay with being inundated with negative things, if you're okay with seeing images that are disturbing, then go for it. But if it bothers you, if it makes you feel depressed, if it makes you feel fearful, then I would say cut back or just cut that out for at least a few days. And as I said earlier, observe how you're feeling. You're going to notice a difference within yourself. Personally, I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy to constantly be consuming these kinds of things without first stopping to think about it. Now, people who do this as a business, this is their job, they're thinking through that. But when you're just being a passive kind of watcher or passively absorbing these kinds of images and information, you're not thinking through and you're not filtering in a way that would be healthy for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is particularly for you, Nicki, because as you said, full disclosure, you and I, we go back.
Way back.
Way back in this business. And we have seen some absolutely horrific things, and yet we still have to consume. We still have to do it short of taking vacation.
Therapy.
Is that what it is?
It really was therapy for me. I mean, keep in mind, age-wise, I graduated straight into 9/11. Then I had to cover it without any type of feeling. Just cover it, have it, go to the Pentagon every day type of thing. I had to learn about therapy very early. And you know how Black folks are. We don't do therapy. We just pray it away.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to kind of like get over that hurdle real fast because you had, I think it was like Aaliyah, Left Eye, all of them died. You had 9/11 happening. And then it was a rolling recession. All these bad series of events kept happening. So if I didn't have therapy, I would not be probably still here right now. It's been very, very stressful. And it's, vacations, which are part of therapy. So there you go too.
Yeah. Real quick, we just heard from Dr. Adams. April, I'll let you have a final word about this.
So it's adrenaline rush. I think our adrenaline kicks in when we want somebody to know what you know already. It's more like the gossip part. So it's like you find out something and I want to tell you, and then the next person, and then the next person. So mine is off an adrenaline rush. I like being able to be like, oh yeah, I got it. Let me get this. I want to post this. Nobody has it. Let me look around. And again, just being the first. But again, I also look too to see if I really want to be the first for that or do I want to be a first for this. I'm very selective for what I post.
I think I'm going to have to let that be the last word. Dr. Terri Adams, April Banks, Nicki Mayo, I want to thank you for talking to us. Really great discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And finally tonight, let's be honest. Human beings have loved drama going all the way back to Greek tragedies. And some would argue even that first dramatic biblical story of Adam and Eve leaving the Garden of Eden. But today, the salacious, dramatic realities of minute-by-minute news and information can take a toll on those of us who consume it and those of us who report it. We're never going to stop negative news and information. Look, it happens, and somebody is going to tell us about it. But you can control how much of it you hear and the impact it has on you. Sometimes you have to turn it off for a little while for a little peace of mind. That's the Daily Drum for this Wednesday, September 13th. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.